G'day guys, Mac with the Outer Circle, and welcome to the Death Guard. Now the Death Guard are actually one of my most favourite legions. They were actually the first full 30k army I collected. I built a large Death Guard army up, and at the time I thought, man, I'm king shit. This is one of the best looking armies on the planet. You know, fuck, I'm just so good. And in reality it wasn't. But doing that army, I learnt so much, and it's really helped me get where I am today. And I mean, I'm still learning. But at the time I thought, you know, I was using all these new techniques like chipping and washes, not like your traditional washes, I'm talking like oils and enamels here. I was trying all that stuff out, and I thought, oh, you know, I've come so far. I've used a lot of weathering powders, that kind of thing. I just, oh fuck, I'm good. And in reality, I wasn't. I was just, you know, my first steps into a new world of how I paint my miniatures. And, you know, it was a learning experience. It's probably a good thing for me too to lose a few painting competitions with them, so it put me in my fucking place. But, neither here nor there, I guess. Everyone's here to find out about the Death Guard. And, well, they'll tell you everything you want to know when you're starting out a Death Guard army. So first of all, you're remorseless. It means you're immune to fear, automatically pass pinning. On top of this, as Sons of Barbarous, you get to reroll failed dangerous terrain tests. And you also get a Feel No Pain of 4+ against poison and fleshbane weapons. You're also intractable, which means that when you're sweeping advance, it's -1 to the score you roll. Now, there are a couple of rights of war, one of which called the Reaping. Most players will automatically just go straight for because it's a very good right of war. But as usual, we're not going to go into the rights of war. We'll come back and revisit all of the rights of war for everyone after I've done all the legions, Mechanicum, Custodes, everything. Once I've done all the factions for 30k as basic armies, then we'll go back and look at some more advanced stuff. So, unique war gear wise, chem munitions. Any unit or vehicle with a flame weapon can upgrade to chem munitions. All of your flame weapons on the unit or vehicle now gain shred and gets hot. Now, that's pretty good. Won't affect your dual systems, your twin linked flamers, that kind of thing, but very handy. Contemptors and Leviathans, especially in Zone Mortalis with this, oh, talk about brutal. Yeah, chem munitions. But they're a little bit weaker in some respects, but the fact that, you know, you get to re-roll to wound, yeah, pretty good. I take that over Gets Hot, especially since a lot of the units that you're going to have it on are vehicles or Terminators, that kind of thing, where they've got a really good chance of just ignoring the Gets Hot part of it. You also have the Power Scythe. Any independent character, or character for that fact, that includes your squad sergeants, that can buy a Power Fist, can, for the same price, take a Death Shroud Power Scythe instead. It gives you +1 strength, AP2, two-handed, and of course is a melee weapon, and has a little rule called the Reaping Blow. Now, you suffer -1 initiative, but if you're in combat with more than one model when you use the scythe, you get an extra attack. So, can be handy. Pretty good weapon because it is AP2 and it gets to strike before a lot of other AP2 weapons. So, up to you if you take them, but I do suggest taking at least a few of them in your army. You also have access to a bizarre relic called the Barbaran Thurible. Sort of like a plague sensor, that kind of thing. You know, the little ball and chains that you see hanging off Mortarian in 40k on that big demon Primarch, is all these balls and chains. Yeah, that looks like that. Reduces the toughness of all non-Death Guard units within 6 inches by 1. Because why not? Pretty good relic if used wisely. Otherwise, it's just a waste of points. But since you're only using it in a campaign anyway, it won't really affect you. Now, as for specialist units, you have access to 2, which is less than some legions. The Death Shroud, first of all, which are his sort of personal bodyguard. And they get Man Reapers, which are those power sides we mentioned earlier. And they also get to use hand flamers, which can be very handy. You walk around the corner and there's a squad of these guys with hand flamers running chem munitions. Jesus, you are in trouble. They will just wreck your shit. You go to charge them, again, D3 hits automatically per Terminator because they flame the fuck out of you as you charge them, and then get to reroll that to wounds because of the chem munitions. Makes them just tough as nails in Zone Mortalis. There are also 2 wound Terminators, and I do believe they also have the Chosen Warrior special rules. They can all issue and accept challenges, and they're also scoring. And if you like, you can take them as a HQ choice themselves. Which, I don't know that I'd do that. Oh, actually, now that I think about it, they're actually all characters, not chosen warriors, which means it's better, basically. They get access to Warlord trait if you take them as a HQ. Oh, and they are scoring. So, pretty handy. Leadership 10, all that kind of thing. You can also take them as a bodyguard to your Praetor or other HQ, which I think is the best way to use them. Another unit you get access to is the Grave Wardens. So they're kind of like Destroyers meets Terminators. Each one of them carries an Assault 2 grenade launcher with crack grenades, and I believe they're Fleshbane grenades or poison grenades of some sort, which wound on 3s. They're AP4 as well, so really strong against Solar Auxilia and things like Thalax from the Mechanicum, that kind of thing. In Assault, they also have a thing called Death Cloud, which you can use for Overwatch. It's basically a Poison 3+ template, and they do have Cataphractii armor, but any charge against them always counts as disordered because of this Death Cloud thing. And I do believe they are scoring. Now, they all come with Power Fists as standard, which means you can't actually upgrade them to Man Reapers, unfortunately, because it's actually not an upgrade option. A funny tweaking of the rules, I know. But you can take some Chain Fists on them, and you can get a Chem Heavy Flamer, so it's not all bad. Overall, they're actually a really, really strong unit, and they're fantastic value for their points. Oh, an interesting little point about the Death Shroud. They're just listed as being Terminators, so they're not actually locked into which armor they use. They can choose Cataphractii armor if you so desire. Just thought I'd point that out. So, alright. We're about to go on to the units part, and with the units part there is some bundles. Now, the easiest way to go about this is just to show you the bundle at the start and then go into the individual units. So, we'll be moving things around a little bit in today's episode, but trust me, it's worth it. So first off the bat here, we have Typhon's Chosen. This gives you a Leviathan Siege Dreadnought, Callous Typhon, and a squad of 5 Death Shroud. This is a saving over buying these same 3 units individually. However, one thing I feel inclined to point out is that I do not recommend the ranged weaponry option ever on a Leviathan. They're just 2 points extreme. Once you start buying the gun arms for a Leviathan, you start creeping up in points towards an Imperial Knight. And that's not a place you want to be, because you are not an Imperial Knight. Statistically, you can beat them on the charge in close combat, but I do not recommend it. I would upgrade the Phosphex, I would take heavy flamers with chem munitions on the chest, but I would swap out the cannon for a Siege Wrecker or Siege Drill. It is the optimum build for your Leviathan, it keeps the points down on it. Now, once you factor in buying that extra arm for the Leviathan, it pretty much takes all the savings out of the bundle. That said, you get all the same miniatures that I'm about to suggest, which is Typhon, Death Shroud, and a Leviathan, and an additional arm. So you'd be just stupid not to buy the bundle. You're going to be spending the same sort of money. So, speaking of which, Callous Typhon works great as a Terminator Armoured Praetor. And you'll generally take a Terminator Armoured Praetor, because they're just so tough. Now, part of the beauty of the Death Shroud is you don't have to take them in a squad of 5. I believe the minimum squad size is actually 2. So, if you want to put them in a transport, for example, with Callous Typhon, just only take 4 when you do the army list up. Just take 4 of them and Typhon, or your Terminator Praetor, if you will, and then you can put a squad in a Land Raider. How good is that? Because a Land Raider is your dedicated transport. I suggest Land Raiders a bit here, so yeah, may as well bring it up now. Land Raiders. All throughout this army, you will lack mobility, especially if you use the Reaping Rite of War. So I suggest using some sort of transport, and the Land Raider is it. Anyway, moving on from all of that, Death Guard Legion Contemptor. Of course you're going to take Contemptor, I always suggest that. This is probably my favourite Contemptor that there is for 30k, tied maybe with the World Eaters one. Everything about it just screams Horus Heresy. The minor amounts of trim is really diluted, it's not over the top at all as a sculpt, and the studs on the chest looks great. The only thing you need to do to make it fit any other Legion pretty much is just to shave this little Legion icon off on the chest here, and the little one off on the ankle. But that's about it. Other than that, it will suit any Legion. And in fact, from memory, yeah, there's another icon on the shoulder. Let me see if I can get that side. There we go. So shoulder, the leg, and the chest. That's it. Get rid of those 3 things. This will suit any Legion. It's not over the top like most of the other Legion Contemptors are. Most of them look like a bit overdone. A little bit too 40k for my taste. But you know, that's just me. It's just me. So, moving back into the HQ elements, Master of Signals and the Champion. Now, I don't suggest running the Champion as a champion. In fact, I would consider upgrading him and the Master of Signals using the Death Guard upgrade sets, Death Guard power scythes, and combi weapons, specifically melters and flamers. The 2-handed power scythe on the Legion Champion will look fantastic. As for the Master of Signals, he's just there to boost some other units we'll talk about later. This is an army I say to run 3 HQs on. A Praetor to do your close combat killing and lead your Terminators from the front. A Siegebreaker to buff your artillery and give you like the Tank Hunter, that kind of thing. And the Master of Signals, because he increases the ballistic skill of units as well as giving you an orbital bombardment. So 3 HQ build. As for the upgrades themselves, as we quickly look back at them, they are fantastic. These are Death Guard to the core. There are 2 different alternate sort of Sergeant's helmets available in the squad. Both look great. I use this one here on the left on one of my Terminator characters that I made, just because I could. Looks bloody cool, right? They also sort of have inklings of what they'll become in 40k, with the tubes and all that kind of thing coming in. They just seem very Death Guard, don't they? Now, when it comes to the combi weapons, I suggest the combi flamers because of that chem munitions thing again. If you're only going to fire a flamer once, it may as well be twin linked essentially. So that's why I suggest it, and works really well when you've got it on your consoles because they pay stuff all points for it anyway. For the actual squads, I actually suggest the Burning of Prospero this time out. The Mark III armor is so much more thematic for the Death Guard than it is for, you know, most other legions. So rather than going for the Betrayal at Kelth, Burning of Prospero. Yes, the Custodes, the Sister of Silence, the 2 characters are not going to be any help to you. I would just say sell them on the internet. People are always chasing Custode parts because they're so strong in 30k, so I don't think you'll have any trouble offloading them. With that in mind, I would suggest making 1, maybe 2 squads of Marines into sort of your generic squads of tactical Marines. The 3rd squad of 10, I would fully upgrade them with these torsos and several combi weapons. I would make them into Legion, veteran tactical Marines. They are very strong in all legions, and even better in the Death Guard, because you're gaining things like preferred enemy and that kind of thing, and you know, strong. Lots of special rules. Legion veterans are probably one of the strongest points for points units in 30k. I don't think it's a lazy heresy to use them, as some people have said. They can do a lot of jobs, but at the end of the day, they are only a toughness 4 marine with a 3+ armor save. So yeah, Prospero. Other things I'd like to see in a Death Guard army: the Space Marine Quad Mortar, the infamous Quad Mortar. Because you've got a Siege Breaker, it can fire the Phosphex rounds. This is a terrifying weapon for other Marines. It kills power armor so rapidly. Things like Solar Auxilia, Imperial Militia will not give you any problems. Big squads of Tech Thralls and that kind of thing with Mechanicum, no issue. And you can even slow down Custodes with them if you use them wisely. They are also not too bad at anti-tank, so there is that. Moving on from there, we get to the Grave Wardens. Yes, these guys are sexy. They've got that whole chem munitions thing dialed up to 11. They have like this pseudo destroyer hive going on like Typhus does with his armor. And they've got chainmail and ragged bits of leather hanging from their armor instead of like the normal cataphractic getup. I have made these squads before. The arms are separate, the legs are separate, torso is separate, heads are separate. Really good kits to build. You can customize the crap out of these. The one downside is the shoulders are sculpted as pretty much one part. So there's not much you can do with the arms for changing them out. So unfortunately you will have these Death Guard style shoulder pads if you choose to use them on someone else. Not really a deal breaker. They look fantastic. And they're a very strong unit, as I said. So yeah, go for it. At least one big squad of 10. Or if you're playing like Zone Mortalis, I think it is pretty fluffy to go squads of 7, because you know what the Death Guard are going to come down the track. They're going to become Imperial Fist, the 7th Legion, right? Now, I also suggest filling out your Legion heavy support with either heavy flamers, with missile launchers, or with Volkite Calvarians. Now, these don't have to be big maximum squads of 10 miniatures, but heavy flamers coming out of Land Raider can be terrifying. Missile launchers in the backline, providing just a constant output of firepower, especially with tank hunters from an attached siege breaker, are terrifying. And of course Volkite Calvarians, with the Master of Signals buffing them, strength 6, ballistic skill going up to 5, they will carve through militia, really mess with Solar Auxilia, and even kill whole squads of Space Marines, because you're talking weapons that get 40 shots, and on the Deflagrate, you know, you get a chance to basically do it all over again. So, very strong. And of course, the Land Raider. We're back to it again. Lots and lots of Land Raiders. You lack mobility. In fact, the only suggestion I would put on top of this army list is some jet bikes. Now, they're not the most fluffy thing for a Death Guard, but they will give you a way of skittering around the table to knock people off objectives, that kind of thing that you normally lack, especially if you're using the Reaping Rite of War, which I bring up because so many people will use it because it's such a fantastic Rite of War and very thematic. Jet bikes are probably the one unit that you will take that just takes your army up to that next little tier, especially because like re-rolling things like dangerous terrain tests on the jet bikes thanks to Death Guard Legion rules, the fact you won't get pinned, you're fearless, yeah, well, not fearless, but immune to fear. It's different. Wink, wink. Yeah, all important stuff. Lastly, little things. Decals. Now, this is the second Death Guard decal sheet they've released. I have actually still got the first one, and I've got this new one. They're both fantastic. Lots of icons. You can kit out everything in the squads with. It also gives you the banners, all the stuff you can put on vehicle doors, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's a good decal sheet. Nothing bad to say about it. And of course, Legion Etch Brass, because not everyone likes using decals, so feel free to put some Etch Brass on your vehicles. You know there's Rhino doors out there, you know there's Land Raider doors out there. I'm not going to go through them all because I'm not a big fan of the way they're bundled. The fact that they're designed for kits that we don't see in 30k, kind of a problem when they're designed for 40k Land Raiders. Anyway, just to cover off on that again, Typhon's Chosen, which will give you Typhon, the Death Shroud, and a Leviathan Dreadnought. A Death Guard Contemptor, probably with Twin Kiri's assault cannons as well, because you want that anti-air capability. Because, again, as I always say, something you will miss when you need it. The Legion Champion and Master of Signals. A Death Guard upgrade set. Death Shroud power sides. Legion combi weapons. A Burning of Prospero box. A battery of quad mortars. Grave Warden Terminators. Heavy flamers, missiles, or Volkites. You don't have to take all three options, may only choose to take one. If I was only picking one, I'd probably go with the missiles. And Land Raiders. Lots and lots of Land Raiders. They're dedicated transports for a lot of units, as well as being a heavy support choice in their own right, and you can take 3 for 1 heavy slot. And of course, Decals and Etched Brass. So, I hope you found Death Guard to be rewarding. I know I have. They're a fun Legion to play and a fun Legion to play against, because they have a lot of dirty tricks, but nothing you'd really call overpowered except for a toughness 0 build. Fucking Danny came up with that, and now it's a meme. Yeah, they look awesome as well. So nothing that locks you into having to paint them white either. A lot of people don't like painting white. At the end of the day, this is dirty white, not clean white like on other Legions. So you can just spray paint them white, a quick wash of Seraphim Sepia over the top of it, and you know, you'll do 90% of the work you need to there. Just don't do what morons do when it comes to Death Guard and sponge the shit out of them until the model has more like black and silver sponging on it than it does the actual white armor showing through. And don't coat them in wash to the extent that it pools around the joints and there's big brown blotches all over them. No, stay away from that. Less is more. Okay, really thin wash will look much better on these than a really heavy wash. They're really rewarding to paint, by the way. You can keep the colour palette to a minimum with brasses, silvers, greens and whites. Maybe a little bit of red like on Typhon here, and maybe a little bit of black for the bolt guns on your basic Marines. That's about it. That's all the colours you'll need, and it will look fantastic. Basing wise, up to you what you do with them. You can have them just on flocked bases like is shown on some of the Death Shroud, and me personally, I like to use the Wetlands bases from Secret Weapon Miniatures and actually put water effects in so they look like they're walking through swamps. But that's just me. And, you know, you're welcome to interpret them however you like, base them however you like. You can have them walking on lava for all I care. Anyway, I'm Mac with the Outer Circle. Thank you all for watching the episode, and I'll see you all next time.